Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show in which we find out what happens when original sin just goes away. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday. Widdershins Wednesday. I have no idea why I said that. I think I've said wonderful, wondrous, wacky before. And I was like, what's a good W word that I've never used? I'm not even sure I know what Widdershins really means. Hopefully, nothing terrible. But regardless, it is Wednesday, and here we are. Rock us like a hurricane. Yeah, I'm very curious about this one. It might be educational. I know I say that maybe facetiously, but you never know. The loss of privilege. The loss of privilege. Because my understanding was privilege is sort of ingrained. It's inherent. You can't get rid of it. All you can do is try to use it for good rather than evil, that kind of thing. So I'll be curious to find out what our speaker has to say about that. But before we get to that, who all is joining me today? Why, that would be Scientrology, hello. Zach Osborne, hello. St. Michael, hello. What's-his-face McWhatnot, hello. Beth Castleman, hello. Havoc Vladimirovich Stalinov, hello. Asian Hippie, hello. Shrouded Angel, hello. Matt Barnes, hello. Brutus, hello. Biggerit, hello. And thank you, Bacall, the Driving Ape Man. Feels good to make collection reps quiver. But are they quivering with anticipation? I don't know. Let's see. Who else is here? Drew W. Hello. Spyro Girl. Hello. Thank you, Gear PG, for the Dogcat Fox. Hiya. Hiya, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox. Zach Weiss. Hello. Somnambul Nation. Hello. I for Singatorix. Hello. Keeverdam. Hello. Advocatus Diaboli. Hello. Dina B. Hello. Black Belt for Christ. Hello. Ali. Hello. Wade Willison. Hello. Check Your Logic. Hello. And then chat jump because of course it did. Tarkata, hello. Your boy Pat. Hey Pat. Hello. Shiogorath, hello. Adabisi, hello. Moonshock, hello. Leo Prime 75, hello. Keenan, hello. Dr. No, hello. Crimson Tiger, hello. Zalba, hello. Stefan Tyler, hello. Let's see. Did I already say hi to Megan? Well, Megan Ring, hello. Either way. Howard Welsh, hello. Joys of Sorrows, hello. Bruno Monteiro, hello. And I think, Ms. Slim 1, hello. Lancelot 652, hello. Brad Young, hello. Taslim Hassan, hello. Soraya Thorndike, hello. And then chat jumped all the way down again. I apologize, guys, if I missed any hellos. Officer Buck, thank you so much. Hey, you, with the cool pair. Spider-Man, hello. Ants K, hello. The Demon Man 57, hello. Grizilla, hello. Resident comic book artist extraordinaire. Zero the Hero 909, hello. Aether Toast, hello. Big Dave 1066, hello. Analin, hello. Thrashy, hello. And those are the hellos, guys. We have to move on. I appreciate all of you showing up. Oh my gosh, it's getting to the point where I'd spend half the show saying hello. All of you are showing up. I appreciate it. But with that, one more. Buckaroo Baizu, hello. All right, guys. So the loss of privilege. The loss of privilege. What does that mean? I don't know. Let's find out. Get your bingo cards ready. Link is in the description. Per usual, I will start off with a couple of seconds of sound. You guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we will proceed.
Privilege is on the table.
Privilege is on the table. I thought meat, it's what's for dinner. But okay, privilege is on the table. All right. Well, sounds good, says Asian Hippie. Sounds good, says St. Michael. Sounds good, says Dina B. All right. Oh, and that one served of Satania. Hello. All right. So privilege is on the table. Is there a side helping of mashed potatoes? I love mashed potatoes.
For some, it's a tasty dish. It smells so good. We can't wait to tuck in and relish the feast.
Mm-hmm.
For others, it's a toxic stench of toxic sludge. We're gagging on the fumes and waiting for someone to please just take it off the table again.
Oh my God, toxic. He said toxic. And thank you, this is Kyle. Hello, chat people and scribbles. It's not all the hellos until I say hello. You're right, I apologize. Lady Gopher, hello. Evil One, hello. All right, guys, on the bingo card, we are circling free space and toxic. All right, so for some people, privilege is a tasty treat. For other people, privilege is a toxic brew. How do you delineate between these people, might I ask? And also, dare I say, how do you define privilege?
Why, for so many of us, is it so awkward to talk about privilege?
Usually because it's a tacit accusation of inherent flaw, inherent wrongdoing, that you're telling me that I possess something that I can't get rid of, that is inherent to my being, but it also gives me advantages that I didn't earn, and therefore part of my life is a lie, but I'm taking advantage of this lie to the detriment of others and actively hurting people simply by existing. Yeah, that's why it's awkward.
Why, for so many of us, is it so difficult to acknowledge we might have privilege?
Because it would be acknowledging an accusation without evidence. Acknowledging benefiting from a rule we're being told we live under, but doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. So then how is it a privilege? Maybe that's why.
Let alone embrace the idea of losing it. And indeed, why is losing it so scary when it just might be the best thing for?
Well, losing it, you'd have to actually prove you have it. And then you'd actually have to prove that the mechanisms that bestow it are true across the board. And given the usual accusations of where privilege comes from, how does you I'm falling back to 2 TEDx's ago where improper grammar was the proper grammar. How do you lose privilege if it's based around something that is inherent to your makeup? If I'm accused of possessing male privilege, how do I lose male privilege? If I'm accused of having white privilege, how do I lose white privilege? Well, maybe our speaker will tell us, because I have absolutely no idea.
For ourselves, our relationships, and the planet.
The planet? Oh, okay. Tell me how losing my privilege will help the planet.
I'm a writer, a teacher, a filmmaker, and I research what happens to people at the point where they lose some of their privileges, what I call privilege loss.
Oh, so when people go to jail? Like that?
Now, what interests me about privilege is that it's the often neglected flip side of social justice campaigns. You know, if you've got a campaign for greater social equality, well, if it's to any degree successful and gains some of its intents, that relative balance between privilege and disadvantage shifts.
Does it? Really? Okay. Well, prove it. Thank you, Johnny Stoffel. I is white. I is privileged. I is a sinner. Yeah, that kind of goes along with the lessons of 2 TEDx's back, doesn't it? Thank you, Johnny. So yes, tell me how you measure the balancing act between advances in civil rights, let's say, and the loss of privilege. What privileges were lost, let's say, in the civil rights movement? Okay, let's think about this for a second. I suppose you could say that if in the 60s you were a white supremacist and you thought of yourself as obviously superior because of your skin color, and then there was, say, integration in schools or lunch counters or drinking fountains and so on, if you felt that your exclusivity to certain things was inherent to what you are, and then the law changes and you no longer have those things exclusive to you, then yes, I suppose you could say you've lost your privileges. Okay, well, that is an active example I could agree with if you bring it up. Now, granted, this is taking place in New Zealand, so maybe he won't bring up examples from America, but then I don't know. So depending on what he says, what example he uses, I could conceivably agree with it.
When this happens, some will relatively gain privilege, but others will relatively lose it. So what happens to people at that point of privilege loss?
I don't know. What happens to them?
Well, some might say, hey, forget those people. They had their time in the sun. Let's sit back and watch them suffer.
Yeah, that'd be a little vindictive, depending on what we're talking about, but then we need some context. You are going to provide us context at some point, I hope. Yeah, watching people suffer. That's hilarious.
I don't want to sit back and watch them suffer for two reasons.
Let's see. Kieverdam reminds me, yes, I need to circle privilege. Apologies. That is should have been automatic given the title, but you never know. Let's see. I'm so enraptured by what he's going to say next. I kind of missed out on that one. Okay. Let's get back to it.
One, they're us. As I'm going to argue today, we're all connected in privilege. But two, if we do forget those people and their privilege loss, we risk facing the worst consequences of it, where people get angry, fearful, resentful. And
okay, sorry. My brain blanked out there for a second. I got to back up because he's just like rolling things out. Maybe it's the hypnotic nature of his voice or something. I'm just like, what? A lot of people are telling me I'm missing things on here. Okay, let's go to the bingo card real quick. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. He hasn't really talked about race, sex, etc. yet, but we might get there. Marginalization. I don't believe he said it. Mind reading assumes motives. I could probably safely circle that already, but I'm going to wait for a more tangible example. Plays victim, not yet. Equity, I'd be surprised if he doesn't bring up the word. Excuse me. Word salad. I bet we'll get there more clearly. Self-vilification or wretchedness, not yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. Privilege law. People in the chat are saying privilege law, buzz phrase. Well, he's got it up on a slide. It's basically the name of the discussion. So yes, I will circle buzzword, buzz phrase. Feminism, no. Childhood or family anecdote, not yet. Benevolent condescension, we'll probably get there. Systemic, no. Contradicts own point argument, well, he hasn't really made one yet. Weightless example, hasn't given any. Leaves out vital context, I'm sure we'll get there. Microaggressions, unconscious bias, not yet, but again, probably. Takes credit for something done, experienced by others in their demographic, not yet. White supremacy, not specifically. Wage gap, no. A list, excuse me, oh boy, I better not get the hiccups now. Who said the... two reasons, huh? Sounds like a list. Yeah, all right. Legit, two is a list. All right. An anecdote that probably never happened. He hasn't given us any anecdotes. So what I have circled so far, attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, free space, toxic, privilege, and a list. Let's continue.
Connected in privilege. But two, if we do forget those people and their privilege loss, we risk facing the worst consequences of it, where people get angry, fearful, resentful, and look for someone to blame.
Okay, so, and I'm going to keep going to the most like extreme example I can think of, right? Which I already brought up. So, Civil Rights Act, 1964, and I'm just talking like in the broad strokes of things. Okay, so the white supremacists no longer have exclusive access to the front of the bus, right, or to drinking fountains and so on, and they feel this is a great injustice done to them, and so now they're going to get all angry and do horrible things, which many did. We can't forget about them because, okay, so what do you do in that situation? Because I assume that in the most extreme example of privilege loss, as in integration and, racial equity, real racial equity back in the day under law, whatever solution he comes up with here has to conceivably be what would have solved so many problems back then. All right? Maybe. Thank you, Officer Buck. If privilege loss is such a great thing, then why is it such a good thing for minorities to gain said lost privileges? The argument would be that it is doing away with inequality of rights, inequality of access, and things like that. So that would be the argument. And it depending on the circumstances and what we're talking about and when we're talking about, it might be a completely reasonable argument. But we need to find out what our speaker means because he has to define his terms, especially in the modern day where the most extreme example I can think of has been null and void for 60 some odd years now.
Now, I grew up reasonably aware of privilege.
Uh-huh.
My parents were both feminists.
Whoa, a family anecdote and feminism. All right. Well, feminism, circling that one. Childhood or family anecdote, circling that one. Oh boy, we're on a roll, guys.
Interested in social inequalities.
Uh-huh.
When they split up, one became rich and the other poor, and I got some idea of the pros and cons of both sides.
One became rich and one became poor. I'm curious to know by what mechanisms each of them ended up in that state. Was it their makeup, or was it personal choices, or
When they died, I got some idea of loss. I went on to become an academic, and I wrote a book about inequality in healthcare. Now, my mum always warned me, son, don't become an academic. She'd worked as a secretary for some and found them all to be egomaniacs.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you haven't fallen into that pit yourself, have you?
Something about being told all day that you're an expert gives an overinflated sense of self.
Yeah. Tell me again why you wonder why people are uncomfortable when it comes to conversations about privilege, and how you're aware of the privilege and you know everybody's got it. And yeah.
Well, I didn't listen. But it's only been in recent years that I've come to appreciate the massive role that privilege plays in all of this.
Oh.
See, at this life, I lead a double. Half of my time, I live here in Auckland, a global city where I'm widely recognized for possessing many lines of privilege.
Oh, you possess many lines of privilege. Okay. Also, I got to say, I don't usually, mention anything about a speaker's mannerisms, but his like mouth noises and smacking the lips or whatever as he goes is getting kind of irritating.
Recognized for possessing many lines of privilege, for being white, male, straight, employed. I mean, I get well paid to research privilege loss. The irony's not lost on me.
The irony's not lost on you, really. Why are you in your position? Why haven't you quit? Doesn't the presence of these privileges thus undermine the credibility of your position in life? Doesn't it? Okay. Thank you, Ost-san. $5. This guy is actually a Midwestern guy who is just affecting the limey accent to sound smarter. Well, he's in Auckland, New Zealand. I'm not a very good expert when it comes to accents, although I have been called a cunning linguist from time to time. So I don't know. I don't know his history. I don't know his background. I don't even know what he's an academic of, although he's kind of telling us this. He studies privilege loss for a living. Sounds like a very self-made career, but anyway. Thank you, Lancelot 652. Both parents were feminists. That poor guy. He even has the male feminist male man bun. Yeah, I'm wondering. He says, all academics end up becoming egomaniacs. Does he exclude himself from that? I don't know.
But the other half of my life, I live with my wife's tribe, an indigenous community in a small isolated town in northern Canada, where very different privilege rules apply.
Okay.
While in the city, my voice is sought out, I'm given platforms to speak, and the PhD by my name heralds my status and my expertise as a teacher and a researcher. In Indigenous Arctic Canada, expertise isn't measured by the letters after your name.
You don't say.
And believe me, no one needs to know the opinion of a doctor of media studies when it's minus 30 degrees outside, the generator stopped working, and a pack of wolves just ate your neighbor's dog.
Professor of media studies, you say. You're talking about privilege loss. Okay.
So what interested me, wasn't that the rules were different. I knew that much going in. What fascinated me was the physical feeling of adjusting to the most minor of privilege changes.
Privilege changes, not changes, like where nothing about anything that you've spent your life was actually relevant in a survival situation where you're cut off from technology and convenience and so on. Is that a loss of privilege, or is that just you're not acclimated to the environment? I mean, privilege, let me, just for our own edification here, let me look up the definition of privilege, just so that we're all on the same page here, relatively speaking. Okay, privilege. A special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. Now, is it possible that our speaker could learn to survive in the environment he found himself in Canada? Is it possible that the people he was living with in Canada could learn to survive in his world of academia? Yes. These are not things limited or prohibited from being gained. Privileges, they are called skills. Now, is our speaker confusing the concept of skills with privileges? Sounds like it, doesn't it? Uh-oh, am I buffering? Uh-oh. Well, I don't know, guys. It might be YouTube. Who's anybody else experiencing sound issues? I will pause a moment and repeat myself on the off chance. Now, if you're using the YouTube app on your phone, that may be the culprit. We've heard many stories about the YouTube app being terrible for live streaming. You might want to watch through a browser on your phone instead to fix. Otherwise, if you're watching this on a browser on your computer or something and still seeing buffering, I don't know what to tell you. Let's see. So what I said was, in case it was missed, him living amongst indigenous people in Canada and trying to survive in 30-degree weather or minus 30-degree weather is nothing to do with privilege. It has everything to do with skills. It is not a privilege to be able to survive out in that weather. It is a skill to survive out in that weather. So again, I'll restate my question. Is our speaker confusing the concept of skills with privileges? Let's see what he says.
Relatively losing speaking rights, for instance, for an entitled white male who lectures for a living, felt like a burning injustice.
Losing speaking rights? You're going to need to explain that. What do you mean losing speaking rights?
When I wasn't allowed to speak as much as I was used to, it felt so unfair. And I had to put so much effort in to forcing down this feeling of indignation, lest I start blurting out inappropriate things at inappropriate times.
Okay, and he's telling us what he means. I really hope he does, because I'm curious to know why he wasn't allowed to speak or under what circumstances. I mean, what do you mean?
And I thought, why is this so hard? And if it's so hard for me, is it hard for other people too?
Or maybe it's because you're an egomaniac that loves to hear yourself talk, and when somebody says it's not your turn to talk right now, that's when you get indignant? Are you mixing up privilege with ego as well? Okay. If he explains himself, I'll take it back, but I'm going to be circling leaves out vital context. Because, yeah. Analin says this never happened. I need more details. If he doesn't give me more details, it's very difficult for me to say, even with any sort of like facetiousness, was this an anecdote that never happened? Until he tells us more about what's going on, I don't know. But certainly I'm circling leaving out vital context. So either way, he's got a circle on him.
And I looked on the news and saw around the world and saw that, yeah, apparently this is hard for a lot of people adjusting to privilege loss. So hence this project, to try and understand the loss a little better and maybe develop some tools to help us embrace it with more dignity.
Okay, you're not making an argument here. What you've described so far is lacking skills necessary to the circumstances you find yourself in. And then I don't know what you mean by having been prevented from speaking. I have no context for that whatsoever. So were you deprived of your privilege, or were you just low on the hierarchy in that situation and your input didn't matter? because you had nothing to contribute? Or were you given rules as to when you could speak in this, you called it a tribe. So were you actually in a tribal situation where there were elders and some hierarchy there that you didn't belong to? What are you talking about? I don't know. You're very bad at this so far. Thank you, Officer Buck. Sounds like another grade A projector, like most male feminists. Well, he's certainly sounding like he's working around any possibility that he's the problem, that his expectations of how others should treat him equates to a loss of privilege. But well, I guess we'll find out.
So what are we talking about here?
I don't know. That's what I've been waiting for. Tell me, what are we talking about?
Is this privilege? Well, I'm a social scientist, so let's social science this.
You're a social scientist, so a fake scientist. Okay.
Word literally means private law, privis plus leg. Now, some have interpreted this, well, what does that mean? That means
you're about to continue. So you define your word kind of in pieces, and then you're about to move on, and then you have to remember to define yourself again. Okay.
Some have interpreted this, well, what does that mean? That means a rule for some and some for others. That means advantages for some and not for others. That means access to resources for some and not for others.
It can, yes, depending on the circumstances. Yes, that's what a privilege is, more or less. Like, as an American citizen, I enjoy certain privileges that someone who is not an American citizen does not enjoy. Yes, that very good. That is what a privilege is, certainly. If you go to northern Alaska without the ability to survive in minus 30-degree weather, you're not being deprived of a privilege, so to speak. You're just lacking skill. I just love that example, and that I'm getting ready to circle weightless example. Actually, you know what? I'm going to, because that's not a loss of privilege. That is an absence of skill. If I find myself lost in the woods, I haven't lost privileges. I just don't know what I'm doing. So weightless example has been circled. We just have to get to unconscious bias, microaggressions, or a reasonable facsimile thereof, guys, and we're off to the races.
Some have taken this very literally and only interpreted it as meaning what the law says one can and can't do, legal privileges. But in the social sciences, we know that society is governed by much more than law alone. The unwritten rules, the informal rules, the norms, the etiquettes.
The mores, might you say? Wow. Yeah, social science, it's cutting edge, guys.
Govern our lives, and these involve privilege and unfair advantages too. There's no law, for example, that says women can't get paid as much as men.
Uh-oh. Is he sitting on wage gap? Did he just...
Some have...
Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm circling wage gap. Wage gap. Wage gap. All right. There we go. Oh, we're on our way, guys. Oh, boy. Mind reading assumes motives. If he doesn't hit upon that more clearly soon, I'm going to be very surprised. We might have at least a double bingo here. Oh, boy.
I've also interpreted privilege as only meaning white privilege, often in a United States sense of black-white racial dynamics. And look, white privilege is real. There's no doubt about that.
There's no doubt about that. Oh, okay. Okay. How did one of your parents end up poor? I'm just really curious, given the fact that you said that one of your parents ended up rich and the other one ended up poor, and you call yourself a white straight male. So barring some other information, and God knows he hasn't given us a whole lot, how did one of your parents end up poor if they possessed white privilege? I mean, they had access to it because they were white. Nobody else has access to it. I mean, how could they possibly end up poor? I'm sure you're not going to tell us.
Colonialism, the triangular slave trade, the exporting of European values around the world have created the conditions we now live in, and they are conditions that privilege whiteness. The
conditions we live in, Western civilization, technology, a relatively to the past, low mortality rate, extended lifespans, medical advances, internet, on and on and on and on. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's terrible out here. Officer Buck, thanks so much. No doubt about it. Oh, well, if you say so. Yeah, I mean, he's a social scientist, guys. He obviously knows.
But the growing field of privilege studies looks at unfair advantages in a much wider sense.
The growing field of privilege studies, the more like the growing a racket of privilege studies. But I might be biased myself.
Going beyond ethnicity to look too at class, age, gender, sexual orientation, employment status, housing status, physical health, able-bodiedness, mental health.
You know, I don't have a square for it on the board there, but I smell a whiff of intersectionality coming on here. Were your parents intersectional feminists by any chance?
Languages spoken, religion, and so forth, and looks at the unfair and unshared privileges in these too.
Uh-huh.
One of the most interesting things about privilege is that those who have it often don't know they have it. It's invisible to them.
Yes, until the secret witch finder comes along and detects it for them. Right?
Peggy McIntosh famously called privilege an invisible backpack.
Knapsack. Knapsack. Not backpack. I mean, I hate to be the one to have to correct. It's knapsack.
Full of passports and maps and visas and blank checks that you can cash in at any time, but which you were meant to remain oblivious about.
Yeah, and if you actually read the invisible knapsack and you read the details of what she actually wrote, I counted up one time how many weasel words were used in the course of her description of the privileges that are just automatic that everybody enjoys if you happen to be white. It was several phrases to the extent of can be pretty well assured, or most of the time. Like the phrases like that appear very, very often in Peggy McIntosh's breakdown of white privilege. And my favorite of hers, of course, is the color of Band-Aids. Yes, the color of Band-Aids, created specifically for white people. Yeah, the grand privilege that extends my life all over the place, the color of Band-Aids. Okay.
Others have called privilege the wind at your back, where just like going for a bike ride with the wind at your back, you often don't realize it's there until you turn around and start trying to ride into it.
So are you a more pure individual now that you've confessed to us your inherent privileges, being a straight white male and so on? Okay. Was that wind at your back in the course of your academic career? Did you push back against any opportunities or achievements or, I don't know, good grades you received? Did you march up to your professors after they handed you an A+ on a paper and say, you better demote me because I know you're only doing this because I'm white? Did you do that? I'm curious if you did that, because I really have to wonder when people stand on a stage and confess their white privilege, whether or not they actually practice what they're preaching or not.
I like to think of privilege as an invisible door person, someone who opens the door for me at certain times and then closes it in the face of others.
Okay, which times was it open for you unjustified? What accomplishments, what credentials do you possess that are invalid? What degrees, what commendations, what will you give up to prove that you understand that your place in society and in the world is unearned? I know he's not going to ever answer that question, at least not here, but I'm always curious.
Or sometimes closes it in my face.
Oh, really? Why would the door be shut in your face? You're a straight white male. You're the top of the privileged food chain. Why was the door shut in your face? And did your wife's tribe shut the door in your face? Are they guilty of racial discrimination or something for not allowing you to talk? I mean, what exactly is the evil of your wife's tribe in that instance then? I'm very confused.
Now, there's been a lot written about privilege in recent years, both in the academy and in the media.
Yes.
And there's a tendency in this commentary to talk about it in terms of people who have privilege and then people who don't. And I want to reject this binary. I don't think it makes so much sense.
You're talking about privilege loss, and you want to reject the binary of possession and the absence of possession. Privilege loss, rejecting binary. Okay. I'm circling word salad because that alone right there is like, what? I may end up circling contradicts own point argument here fairly soon, but okay, tell me about the rejection of the binary of the existence or absence of privilege during a talk about privilege loss. Thank you, Gear PG. That privilege is considered bad speaks volumes on how egalitarian our society really is. I don't know how many times I've said this, but do speakers at these things, whether it's TEDx or otherwise, actually stop for a second and listen to the words they are saying, listen to the reality they're actually weaving, and stop for a second and think, did I just say what I said? Have I thought about the circumstances I am stating are absolutely true fact about the world and my interpretation thereof? Often I don't think so. But then we are all cursed with bias. So, you know, my lens is different than your lens. My green isn't exactly the same as your green. It's not easy being green.
You see, who we are, all of us, who we are is complex and complicated.
Oh.
We're all made up of so many different identity categories.
Identity categories? Okay, well, reduce us down to our component parts, none of which probably say anything about who we are, but simply what we are. Proceed.
Our age, our ethnicity, and so on.
Uh-huh.
I like to think of us all as complex machines made up of many levers.
Complex machines. Okay, could you dehumanize us any further? I'm sure you could if you tried.
His age, his body type, his religion, his language is spoken. Now, whether or not that lever is turned to privilege or not depends on the structure you find yourself in. If the structure is patriarchy, the lever will be turned to privilege.
Oh, patriarchy, patriarchy. Oh my gosh, guys. Look at the board so far. If you're following along with your own bingo card, let me rattle off to you the squares I have circled. Word salad, attempt to coin new buzzword buzzphrase, feminism, childhood or family anecdote, free space, patriarchy, toxic, privilege, weightless example, leaves out vital context, wage gap, and a list. You know, given his story about being prevented from speaking in Canada, yeah, yep, guys, I'm circling plays victim. Just occurred to me. Probably should have occurred to me earlier. John Miller, thank you so much. We need better architects. Yeah, it depends on the structure. But guys, you know what just happened? I'll tell you what just happened.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Yes, everyone, we have our first bingo of the show. The G-row going down. Plays victim, feminist, patriarchy, leaves out vital context, and a list. Oh my gosh, guys. Do you think we can hit more than one bingo by the end of this? I think we can. We are set up for several. Maybe we can go for a triple. I think we can probably go for a triple. We're only about halfway. Actually, we're not even halfway through this yet. Oh my gosh. Let's keep going.
If it's male. If the structure is heteronormativity, it will be there at heterosexual. But here's the thing. The structures change.
Oh, yeah.
And they change in space and in time.
Yeah.
Where the rules governing privilege in this room or an inner city boardroom are very different to those in a small, isolated town. And
you know what? That sounds like systemic institutional to me. Structures in different places. Yep, I'm circling systemic institutional. Oh my gosh, guys. Oh my gosh. How many bingos can we hit with this guy? Will he beat out Agents of Change? I don't know. Agents of Change brought us 8 bingos. We're only barely halfway through this thing. We already got 1, and we're on the verge of like 2 or 3 more. Oh, boy.
Northern Canada.
Yeah.
And in that town, the rules in the speaker's circle, the sharing circle, will be very different to those in the kitchen.
Oh, was that where you were prevented from talking in the speaker's circle? You didn't tell us that. Oh, so you weren't the top dog in the speaker's circle? Is that why you're prevented from speaking? I need you to tell me that that's what it was. Because, if I have to take out, leaves out vital context after I've already declared a bingo, I'm going to be very upset. So you just keep leaving out vital context so I don't have to do that.
But they also change in time, where the rules governing gender in New Zealand right now are very different to how they were 30 years ago and very different to how they will be in the future.
Really? So the rules or the society or the culture in New Zealand has advanced in time? Changed over time? Huh. Interesting. Okay.
The trick is to work out what the actual structure is, to work out where the levers are turned. And can we find someone who has every single lever turned to privilege or indeed to disadvantage in every possible context? I don't think they could exist.
Yes. Can these abstracts of absolute power and absolute oppression exist? Good luck.
But this isn't some free-for-all way of saying that everyone's equal in privilege. Far from it. Privileges are not equal, not in how they impact human well-being or human misery. The privilege of speaking first, last, and most often in a business meeting is not the same as the privilege to not be put in jail because of your sexual orientation.
What? Well, okay, yes, the privilege of talking first, last, in the middle, or whatever in a business meeting is usually based on your hierarchy in the business or in the meeting. And that usually has something to do with your position in the business, which is usually, presumably, based in some form on your personal merit. It's granted to you because you earned it, not because it's just handed to you freely without having done something for it. But being jailed for your sexual orientation, yes, well, anyone put in jail is inherently losing privileges, regardless of their orientation, their gender, their race, and so on. Whether or not those loss of privileges is justified, of course, is all down to due process, or the lack thereof, I suppose. But what are we talking about again?
Or to not be taken away from your family as a child because of your race.
Taken away from your family as a child because of your race. Okay, well, I feel completely safe now leaving the leaves out vital context square circle because I have no idea what he's referring to.
Privileges are not equal.
Yeah.
And the trick is always to work out what the context is.
What? Wait, what? The trick is to work out what the context is, and you've just given us 3 or 4 examples without context. I guess it is a trick. Is that one that you can pull off yourself?
So what happens when that context changes and a lever is turned to loss? What happens at the point of privilege loss?
I don't know. You started out this lecture, asking us that very question. You're now halfway through your talk, and now you're going to get to privilege loss, like the consequences, the mechanisms thereof. Okay, I am ready. I am dying to know. I am ready to be educated. What does it look like when someone experiences privilege loss?
Well, the first thing to note, there's no real objectivity when it comes to thinking about our privilege loss. How we feel about our privileges relates to how we perceive them, not how they actually are.
So everything is subjective that you're about to relay to us. Subjective and circumstantial and open to interpretation. And there's sirens going off in the background. Yes. Okay. So, that's right. Sorry. Yeah, you're a social scientist. Got it.
You know, often the loudest complaints about privilege loss occur well before any actual loss happens, when loss is a hypothetical possibility on a distant horizon. And yes, us angry white males complain very loudly about this.
Okay. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Yeah, I mean, that's not quite the same, but I'll say that falling onto racial stereotypes is part of it. Also, Was that just self-vilification and wretchedness? Guys, was he just denigrating himself based on what he is? I think he did. You think so? Because it sure sounded like it to me. But you know what happens if that's true? As the sirens go off more. Wow, something's going on out there. Well, guys, if he just vilified himself, well, I'm afraid to say...
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
That's 2, guys. 2 bingos. We have a double bingo. Oh my gosh. We are just a couple of squares away from so many bingos. I got to start marking these so I don't start getting them mixed up with other things. Holy cats. All right, let me start doing this. Okay, that's bingo number 1 on the G column. And that's bingo number 2 across the second row. All right. Now I got to start keeping track because I don't know what's going to happen next. Let's see. We need to get back to my circle. All right, guys. 2 bingos. Here we go.
But why is this? Well, look, for many of us, the moment of facing the prospect of losing a privilege is also the first moment of realizing that that privilege even existed.
Oh.
If you're used to your entire life of someone opening the door for you and then they stop, it feels unfair. It feels like it's getting slammed in your face.
Can you give us an active example, please? Like a modern active example. What are you talking about? Give us a scenario that would apply in the modern day.
And you might ask, seriously? How could you not realize someone was standing there opening the door for you all this time? It seems so obvious to everybody else. Or to be fair, we're actually conditioned to not see the invisible door person.
We're conditioned to not see? What? We're conditioned to not see? Oh, not see. I see. All right. Oh, I don't know. Now I might be getting a little loosey-goosey. I'm all excited about bingos now. Was that benevolent condescension? I'll think about that for a minute.
We're conditioned to not see our privileges, and we're conditioned to see unequal privilege as normal. Hollywood movies, for example, normalize an idea of male dominance and female subservience.
Really? Really? Okay. Hollywood movies. Privilege. Oh, right. Your parents were feminists. I almost forgot.
Consumer advertising normalizes an ideal body type and an ideal of beauty.
Then why do you work out? I mean, and I'm guessing here, but he looks like he's in pretty good shape. Looks like he takes care of himself. Why do you bother working out? Why do you bother, gussying up? I mean, don't you want to like break out of the norms that are being imposed upon you by society? Why are you dressed that way? Why do you have your hair pulled back like that? Why are you working out? Why do you bother with your appearance? I mean, don't you want to defy the forces that are working against you and all other women? Why?
Our physical cities normalize the able-bodied and the youthful, and our mainstream education and mainstream media systems normalize colonizer culture over indigenous ones. Now, there's exceptions to all of that, of course, but the dominant tendencies are clear. So with all that going on...
The dominant tendencies are clear. Okay, everything's racist, everything's sexist. Okay.
Hey, it's understandable why some would internalize the idea of unequal privileges, whether they benefit them or whether in fact they don't. But look, going even further, there are 2 ideologies that are circulated so often in Western societies that we've come to see them not even as ideological. And
is one of them white supremacy? I'd love to circle another square.
Just as the way things are.
Yeah.
And there are 2 ideologies that make it very, very difficult to see and appreciate privilege.
Tell me.
The ideology of meritocracy and the ideology of individualism.
Okay. We're back to the tyranny of merit and the evils of individuality. Okay, what is going on around me today? Just sirens after sirens. There's something going on. I hope nobody's hurt or something, or I'm missing something. Anyway, meritocracy and individualism, guys. So communism and equality of outcome. That's what we're looking at. I'm probably going to circle equity before the end of this, because that's... All right. Tell me more about the evils of meritocracy and individualism. And this is, Kyle points out very correctly, meritocracy isn't an ideology. Well, I mean, if you're talking about like egalitarianism, if that's what he means, then perhaps so, but he didn't say that. So, yeah. But even then, egalitarianism isn't meritocracy. I know. I'm being too generous, I think. Being too generous to this, our speaker.
These tell us that not only are we all unique individuals whose categories do not define us, but also that we have all equal opportunities in life, and thus our achievements are the fair fruits of our efforts and skills.
I want to back up a little bit and break down what he just said.
Very, very difficult to see and appreciate privilege.
Yes.
The ideology of meritocracy.
Yes.
And the ideology of individualism.
Right.
These tell us that not only are we all unique individuals whose categories do not define us.
So we aren't unique individuals and our categories do define us. That is the converse to what you're saying then. So meritocracy and individualism. Okay. Just want to make sure I understand what your worldview is.
But also that we have all equal opportunities in life, and thus our achievements are the fair fruits of our efforts and skills.
No, we don't all have equal opportunities. The law, insofar as it is able to, at least in America, let's say, enforces the idea of equal opportunity. If that idea is violated in some noticeable way, then a business or an organization is liable under law. But none of us are afforded equal opportunities at every stage of life at all times, whether under law or otherwise, because of circumstance, personal choice, etc. The most you can hope for is to have equal opportunity under the law. Outside of that, it really does come down to sometimes luck, choice, initiative, circumstance. And that is called life. When you start talking about equality of outcome, that's where you start engineering things. And that's where inequity starts to come about. But you don't want to talk about that, do you?
Well, these are beautiful ideas in themselves, but when seen through a privilege lens, they're complete fantasies. And that's a hard pill for many to swallow.
Uh-huh.
If you see, the invisible door person, they're forcing us to ask, hey, if much of what I've achieved in life was due to my category and not to my individuality, am I really as capable as what I always thought?
Oh my gosh, are you about to have a moment of self-revelation? Are you about to say, God, am I actually a social scientist? Do I actually have the degrees I have? Am I actually an academic, given the fact that everything was just handed to me because I'm a straight white male? Is that my beautiful house? Is that my beautiful life? Sorry, beautiful wife. Screwed up the song lyric, but you know what I mean. Thank you, Officer Buck. With so many overlapping identities in his words, then how can we not be individuals? I don't know. He's not making any sense. If I hadn't already circled word salad, I'd be circling it again. Okay, so you start questioning the validity of your own accomplishments, life, situation, and so on. Okay. Well, tell me, speaker, how do you escape the obvious implications of what you're saying, given your privileged identities?
Am I as worthy? Am I as ethical? Am I actually much, much more average?
Well, I don't think you're average at all. I think you're quite exceptional. Don't you love the ambiguity of certain language? Yeah.
The concept of privilege has very real impact for how we see ourselves.
Uh-huh.
So it's understandable why we often struggle so much with the idea.
Is it though? Are you understanding what it is to be accused of having privilege? Or are you the witchfinder general?
And because of all of this, we have developed many, many powerful strategies for evading and deflecting privilege and its challenges to us.
Ooh, okay.
I call these privilege deflection, the art of evading accountability.
the posing, the Tai Chi. Wow, that's dramatic. Oh boy, oh boy. Oh God. I mean, points for showmanship, I guess.
This is a type of mental martial art.
Oh.
Very well developed. And it's full of moves to deflect perceived attacks on your privilege. The first move is a simple one.
Ooh, psychokinetic kung fu. Oh boy, let's go.
Denial. Deny privilege exists for you and for other people.
Oh, okay.
It's worked very well to delay accountability on climate change, and it works for privilege too.
Whoa, climate change. Climate change? That came out of left field. Left probably being the operative word there.
Second move is to justify the inequality. This one acknowledges that society is unequal, but it justifies it as the natural order. Statements like, societies need hierarchies in order to function. Women are great, they're just not as strong as men. And poor people had their chance, they're just lazy. Articulate these, naturalizing the inequality.
Okay, well, oh my God, guys. After that last little set of statements, I am more than comfortable circling mind reading and or assumes motives. And if you've been following along, do you know what that means?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Triple bingo. Oh my God. I got to mark that one too so I don't lose my place. Holy cats, guys. And you know what? I'm very close to circling equity as well, but we'll wait a second. We'll see if he actually says the word, because so far I don't think he's actually said the word. All right, let's continue.
This feeds really easily into another strategy, delegitimize the non-privileged. Have you ever noticed in society how many powerful people dedicate so much energy to delegitimizing and disparaging the already disadvantaged? Ethnic minorities, migrants, welfare dependents. I mean, why? What threat are they? What threat are we to the powerful?
Was that just some benevolent condescension? I believe that was benevolent condescension. I'm circling benevolent condescension. That doesn't get us another bingo yet, but it gets us close to another one. Let's continue.
Well, the logic goes like this. If the disadvantaged are unworthy, then inequality is justified.
Thank you, Lady Gopher. Wow, this guy. Just wow. Yeah, what do you think, Dogcat Fox? Wowie, wow, wow. Yeah, I know. Dogcat Fox agrees. Wowie, wow, wow. Let's see here. Okay, deep breaths. We have 4 minutes left. I'm sure that once we do the review afterwards, we're going to hit at least 1 or 2 more bingos.
And if inequality is justified, then no one needs to take ethical account of your own privileges. Privilege has been deflected, intact. But look, there's deflection moves for everybody. Even if you're interested in creating a more equal society, there are still some ways that you too can evade accountability for your privilege. One is to insist on absolute comfort when discussing your privilege.
So there's no way around it. Anything anybody does to try to argue against an accusation that their life, their achievements, or their failures and their catastrophes are somehow diminished inherently because of what they are, there's no move they can make to defend themselves against such accusations that does not then galvanize the proof of their possession of privilege. Gosh, that sounds so familiar. Why does that chain of logic and argumentation sound so familiar? You're always guilty. All you can do is profess and confess. Wow.
If you're feeling at all awkward about the privilege conversation, the conversation must end. Your safety is paramount. Privilege intact.
Is that a punchline? People are laughing? Okay.
But my favorite deflection technique is privilege solidarity.
Ooh.
This is a subtle one,
Ooh.
but it might be familiar to people. This is one where we comfort people against threats to our privilege, comfort the similarly privileged.
Oh, okay.
It might be familiar to people who are deeply worried about climate change, but also fly on planes a lot.
Well, you're bringing up climate change quite a bit. Okay.
You know that moment you're flying on a plane, you don't know the person next to you, and you start chatting and you're getting on really, really well, but then after a while you start talking about climate change and it gets really awkward because you're flying on a plane?
No. No.
You need to find a way to comfort each other very quickly, to reassure each other that you're one of the good guys. Plastic cups? A single-use plastic cup on this airline? That's disgusting, my friend. I know. I recycle. You recycle. We recycle. We are one of the good guys. This is privilege solidarity. It's the privilege fist pump. And in this example, it does for the privilege of flying what the locker room chat does for toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity? Oh, boy. Well, I've already got toxic circled, so... Oh, boy.
And we have many other moves. And, you know, it's understandable.
Oh, yeah.
You see, addressing our privileges, let alone losing them, it's scary.
Uh-huh.
It just might mean changing our view of ourselves.
Oh, my God.
It might mean offending people we love. It might mean rejection from our communities. And let's be real.
Yeah.
Privileges bring material rewards.
Oh, yeah.
How comfortable are we really to give up all that cool stuff?
Well, I don't know. Why are you still wearing clothing? Why do you have those glasses on? I mean, why are you fighting against your inherent disabled self? I mean, why would you want to be an abled person? Why aren't you embracing your disadvantage? Why are you trying to acclimate to the colonizers around you by wearing glasses? You know, and those pants and the belt and the shirt and all those things. I mean, these are all luxuries afforded you by Western culture, which you obviously are privileged by existing in. So what are you doing here? What are you doing on that stage? Aren't you the last person to be talking about these things, given that you are a straight, white male in a democratized country? Why are you, how do you feel qualified? Are you expressing your unacknowledged privilege by standing on that stage and lecturing to the rest of us about the loss of privilege when you embody the possession of privilege? Thank you, Point Curation. Last donation for a while, exhausted with politics. Best to all, take care of yourselves. Well, Point Curation, I empathize with the exhaustion of politics. I mean, if grinding through the events of the day every night on the Lords of the Night, cheap plug, and just as an aside, truth be told, my co-hosts, Satsu and Monkey, and all of you guys are the salve against the constant festering wound of the daily occurrences of the world. Because at least, even if it has to be gallows humor, I can approach the world with a sense of humor. Healthy or not, it makes things at least palatable. But thank you so much, Point Curation. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, John Miller. I get tired of these types. You are born of sin, can never be redeemed, and must be shamed for all time. Forget that. Yeah. When I was talking before about, doesn't it sound like a familiar argument? Think of any major religion wherein thou art born flawed from the beginning and must spend the rest of your life atoning for it. Yeah, exactly. And thank you, Lancelot652 again. Hello, have you heard of the good word of feminism and how we are responsible for climate change? Reminds me of the Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm getting a lot of that lately. It's funny you bring up that specific example. I got a comment from Kurt Metzger the other day on my or yesterday on my other TEDx, the Toy Story slave narrative one, and he mentioned Jehovah's Witnesses, and yeah, there's a quasi religious faith based system is woven through so many of these concepts these days. You have to take it on faith that someone has privilege based on what they are. You have to take it on faith that someone is inherently flawed because they're male, and so on. And any accusation that is given any resistance at all is obviously evidence of the presence of said sin, right? That's the devil talking, right? You must confess, you must atone, you must propitiate yourself to the higher power, which happens to be the accuser.
Well, as cool as all that stuff is, I'd like to argue that the benefits of privilege loss far outweigh the costs.
Oh, okay. Tell me how I can divest myself of all the evil things that I possess, and therefore I'm a better person as a result.
And one of the 20 most watched TED Talks of all time.
Was it one that I watched?
Brené Brown tells us that meaningful connection with other people is the most important part of leading a worthwhile life, and that vulnerability is a key pathway to connection.
Brené Brown. I don't think I've seen that one. I mean, I've watched a lot of TEDx's, but Brené, I'll have to look that one up.
Well, privilege blocks connection with other people, and it builds an insulating cocoon around vulnerability.
How does privilege block connection with other people? Hold on. Okay. Going on the theory as we've been presented, if white skin bestows privilege, then me and all the other white people have an inherent connection with our privilege. We belong to an exclusive group, right? If being male imparts upon me some kind of privilege, as exemplified in so many Hollywood movies, because male and female dynamics in Hollywood movies are obviously a reflection of reality, why doesn't that put me in connection with all other men? If I'm part of an exclusive club, regardless of the subject matter, isn't that exclusivity in itself a connection to other people? Yeah, contradicts own point or argument. Contradicts own point or argument? Oh my God!
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We have another bingo. Oh my golly. Good golly gosh, guys. That is quadruple bingo so far. So far, we're not done yet. Oh my. This is coming up. I believe this is already the runner-up for most bingos in a TEDXcellence, next to Agents of Change. We had at least one other quadruple bingo before. Okay, we have to hit at least 5, I think, to come in the number 2 spot. All right? We got 2 minutes left.
And look, if relationships aren't your priority,
yeah,
but you do like being right about stuff,
yeah,
privilege is worth losing too.
Oh, so like you?
You see, if your analysis of society and of yourself doesn't cater in all those informal ways that unshared advantages work, it's just not going to be very accurate.
What does that mean?
But look, I don't want to give the wrong impression today.
You don't want to give the wrong impression? Oh, okay. So what is the correct impression? What have I spent the last 15 minutes of you talking actually absorbing? What is the correct way to interpret what you've said today?
I don't want to give the impression that I've got this privilege loss stuff down, because believe me, I don't.
Yeah, because you're still straight, white, and male. So until you stop being straight, get rid of your masculinity, and change your skin color, you're stuck, right?
You know, I'm trying to overcome a lifetime of entitlement, and I'm constantly failing in it.
Oh my! Oh, I'm trying to overcome a lifetime of entitlement and I'm failing. Oh God, how can I get past this excellence that just keeps being foisted upon me again and again and again? Oh, woe is me! Give me a break.
Falling down, chewing up the scenery, disgracing myself, and insulting people.
Oh, you mean this TEDx talk? Yeah, you really did do all of those things during this TEDx talk. That's true. Well, I'm glad you confessed to that.
And all I can do is get up, try and own it, and do a little bit better.
Well, if this TEDx talk is any evidence, you're not making much progress.
But I want to do a lot better. And I want you to help me.
Oh, you need my help? You need my help? You're a straight white male. You're at the top of the food chain of privilege in the world. Why do you need my help?
You see, I'm collecting stories about privilege loss in order to find a way to deal with this better.
Gosh, guys, I just don't know how to lose my privilege. I've tried so hard, guys. I've tried so hard. I need you to tell me stories of how you have lost advantages in life so I can absorb them and learn how to disadvantage myself or something.
So if you have a story of your own privilege loss or you know someone, come and find me and tell me. Share it with me because I want to hear it.
Oh, no. I don't know if you want to open up the door to that, dude. I don't know if you want to open up the door to that one.
I'm betting that in our collective wisdom, we have all the tools we need to embrace the loss with dignity, fairness, and courage.
Okay.
And this isn't an ethical question.
Oh, it isn't? Oh, so wait, it's not?
This is a necessity.
Can a necessity not be an ethical question or vice versa? What?
You see, there's one privilege that all of us in this room right now share.
Oh, okay. All right. You mean a privilege that we share, but that doesn't create connections with other people, even though we all share it at the same time. Because privilege doesn't create connections. Share.
And that's the privilege to consume more than our fair share of the Earth's resources. And that's a privilege we do need to lose. But I think in losing it, we're going to find something much more precious.
Yeah, I was wondering when you bring it back to the health of the earth. You mentioned that at the beginning and you never came back to it, but I guess we've come full circle. Full circle, like in a globe, let's say.
So let's work together to manage smoothly our transition to a more equal world. Let's lose the privilege and gain the connection. Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. We are at the stage of post-talk assessment. Let me pull up the bingo card here. This is where we're at right now, guys. We have a quadruple bingo for the moment. Let's go over the bingo card one more time. All right, what don't we have circled? Marginalized marginalization. He brought up that slide which showed the outliers of society, the minorities, and so on and so forth. So at least in aggregate, if not in specific verbiage, he did bring up the concept of marginalization. Okay. All right. Equity. If he was not arguing for equality of outcome by talking about collective and so on, and arguing against meritocracy and against individualism, I don't know what better way to encapsulate that than by circling equity. And you know what that means.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
All right, guys, we have passed over into the second most bingoed TEDXcellence of all time. Let me commemorate that with another line to mark off our progress. Okay, let me update that there. All right, guys, so that's 5. We're at 5. Going back down the card. Oh boy. Okay, microaggressions, unconscious bias. Well, he talked about the privileged lens and seeing different people at different parts of society as having certain values and so on and so forth. I got to say, guys, and I'm not being facetious here. I'm not being generous. This isn't one of those things where I'm like reaching. He did do this. He did imply this beyond words. So you know what that means.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Okay, guys, that's another one. Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. Let me put a line through that one for reference. Okay. All right. All right, let me get back to... I got to keep switching shapes and colors on my little paint program. All right. Takes credit for something done or experienced by others in their demographic. I mean, he kept classifying himself as the straight white male and how we all do this, and he needed our help to help him with his privilege because of where he sits and his entitlement. And yeah, guys, I gotta say, I don't know. I can't. I'm almost speechless because.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
All right. Okay. I mean, we're going for the brass ring here, guys. We really are. We are so close. Let's keep going. Oh, but you know what? That's diagonal bingo. Oh my God, I didn't even realize. Guys, that's a diagonal bingo. I can't believe it. It's
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
oh, okay. Okay. White supremacy. Am I really far off in saying that he all but described white supremacy by pointing out how white people get this and white people get that and so on? I don't think I am. I don't think I'm off base at all. So you know what that means?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Oh my God. Okay. Okay, calm down. Calm down. We're not there yet. We're almost there. We're almost there. Okay. Okay. Now, this has got to be the one that we have to really consider here for a second, guys. I have to beg for your indulgence here because I can't say he gave us an anecdote that never happened. And here's why. You might say, oh, when he was talking about being in the tribe in Canada, etc. He mentioned something that could be true. The talking circle. Now, his interpretation of it as a loss of privilege is beside the point. Was he in a situation where he was not allowed to speak? I know there's another bingo I have to do here in a second, guys. We're already at the last one here. I just want to get this out of the way. Okay, and I need you to think about this. I'm going to do the other bingo here in a second. But I need you to think about this. Anecdote that probably never happened. Can we honestly say that? He only brought up one anecdote that I can think of, and that's one that he later went on to give some context for. So I can't, you're going to have to argue it for me. Regardless, we do have another bingo. Oh, wait, no, I didn't update the page. Sorry. That's what I did. Hold on. No, that was my mistake. I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay. There we go. Okay. Now we're up to speed. There wasn't another bingo to circle there or to line through. Okay. So really the last question is anecdote that probably never happened. Can we say that there was one? Okay. Talsima-san, can we even say he wasn't a tribe? No, he was talking about his wife's tribe. He said his wife is indigenous. She had a tribe that she was a party to in Canada. Megan Ring, the plane story was an example. It was not a personal anecdote. He was not bringing up an anecdote of his own. He was giving a hypothetical. So I can't do that either. Brutus, the dog that got ate by the wolves. I don't have enough information to say he was making that up. Okay, guys, this is where the rubber meets the road. Okay, I have to have an argument that tells me that something he said in here is inherently false or is so unbelievable as to be untrue. If he had never told us about the talking circle, I might be inclined to circle it, but he did. So that gives some context and an explanation for a situation where he might have been deprived of being able to say whatever he wanted if there was actually rules. Now, again, his interpretation of that as a loss of privilege versus just the rules he had to operate under in that culture is a completely different thing. But he gave an idea that his anecdote was not false. John Miller, again, the plain anecdote was not an anecdote. He was talking about a hypothetical. He did not say, I was on a plane or anything like that. Okay, now unless I completely misheard him, he was just saying, you ever been on a plane? And it was a hypothetical. Let's see. Yeah, I'm sitting on saying we're at 9 guys, but we're not at a blackout. BG, how about him being an expert? No, I can't. There is a block in my head, guys. There is a mental block for me being legitimate in circling that square. Of all the things on this card that I did not have to reach or feel any hesitation in circling, that is the one where I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. No, I understand BG him saying is an expert. Yeah, but that's not an anecdote. That might be a brag. It's not an anecdote. It's not a story. I can't. If somebody has a very, very excellent argument or point, I'll take it. And I'll give the next couple of minutes till the bottom of the hour for it. But guys, even if we don't hit a full blackout, we got 9 bingos on here. Isn't that right? Did I count that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 bingos. That is the new champion. Check your logic. You should change the colors to purple and orange starting next week, Scribelight. The colors to purple and orange. What? Chef James, thank you so much. Blackout and celebrate. Oh God, no, don't do that to me. No. I can't, it's not legit. Some emulation. What about one parent being rich and the other poor, Scribelight? Plausible but believable? I can believe it. It completely counteracts his argument about white privilege, but that's already a different square. ERA is now Scribelight. Purple and orange show up better for the colorblind. Oh, I didn't. I just figured circle and line was clear enough, but I'll think about it. Let's see. Seekvice, he said the wolves killing the neighbor dog as an example, but not as a reason he couldn't talk. Well, then that's a weightless example, right? That doesn't say it's an anecdote that never happened. He wasn't saying my 5-year-old walked into the room and told me about the dangers of climate change. It's not something like that. Annalyn, I don't believe there was a talking circle. I can understand that. I can understand that. But unfortunately, within the context of the talk, in the information he provides, does he give us an example or a story that is too good to be true or too convenient to his point to be believed? And honestly, nothing he said fell into that. I'm sorry. I just can't. I just can't. Given the momentous occasion it would be to have a blackout on the bingo card, I have to be very strict here. I can't just frivolously toss this away. That would be an event. And I can't do it. I can't. So I'm stuck on this one, guys. I'm sorry. If you want to do it for your own personal card, that's fine. But officially speaking, we have a new winner as far as the bingo card is concerned. This is the most bingoed TEDXcellence ever to this point. It beats out Agents of Change by a bingo, which is a feat in and of itself. It is not yet, however, the TEDXcellence that counts out the whole card. All right. So with that, guys, I'm going to wrap up here. And I appreciate the donation, Chef James. I appreciate it. I just, in all good conscience, I can't just circle it just to circle it. I can't put bounties on squares. I just can't do it. I appreciate it, though. But everyone, holy cats, 9 bingos. I don't even know what that is. Like, you know, it's not an octo whatever. It's a, what is 9? Is that, no, sept is 7. What's a 9? I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this. I really do appreciate it. Your attendance, your participation especially, your generosity more so. Thank you so much. If you'd like to hear more from me or the Ranting Monkey or Satsu 2 Cents, you can find all 3 of us tonight on the Ranting Monkeys channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the Lords of the Night, where we'll talk about the news of the day. Excuse me. And this is news of the day for me. News stories that you submit, what we've been up to on the internet, and then your stories and comments and so on. My brain is in 3 different places right now because of just all that's happened. Everyone, again, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a momentous day. I'm going to post this up on Twitter relatively soon, in the next couple of minutes, just to make sure it's there for posterity's sake. I hope you all have a good rest of your Wednesday. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.